What is going on, everybody? Dropping you some more content this week. You guys had a pretty good response to the content I dropped earlier this week, so I decided to start giving you guys more content weekly. I'm going to start dropping, 15-minute episodes once a week and call it Shorts on Sports with Brandon. So welcome to SOS with Brandon. I thought this was a great week to start with the Tennessee-Georgia game coming up this weekend. It is a big game for me. If you don't know me, then you probably don't know. I am a Georgia fan. If you do, then that probably didn't surprise you. A lot of the people, friends and family, they mess with me about this game. I call it my Super Bowl. And it's not quite my Super Bowl, but it is a big game for me. I do get up for this. Not quite like I do the Florida game, but I enjoy it when Georgia beats Tennessee. I like having the bragging rights throughout the year. I like being able to say that my team is better than the team than the team that the other people around me root for. I like that. I want that. I'm competitive. I want my team to be good. So this is a big game for me. I do get up for this one. Tennessee's not the team that my number one team that I want Georgia to beat throughout the year. Florida takes that crown. I absolutely can't stand Florida. Us and me and other Tennessee fans can agree on that. Auburn's probably number two. I won't get into just how much I can't stand Auburn. Some of the people that know me know, but that's another video for another day. I don't know if I could give a biased breakdown about that game. Tennessee's number three. Tennessee's probably number three. I do get up for that game. I do get up for this game. I like this game. I love being able to talk crap to my friends. It's one of my favorite pastimes, actually. But I do want to give an unbiased preview, if you want to call it that, to this game. What I see, what I've seen on film, how I kind of think the game will play out. I want to start with the offensive side of the ball with Tennessee. The first thing I noticed with them has been their offense is really, really good when their O-line is good. Right now, especially their run game, their run game is averaging 213 yards a game. That's very, very good. As a team, they're averaging 5.6 yards a carry. Their backfield is led by Jalen Wright. He's had an incredible season. Dude is a really, really good football player. Accumulating 848 yards. Averaging 7.2 yards a carry, man. I love watching this dude play. I love watching him run the football. I do think he gets to 1,000 yards by the end of the season. And if I could get on a soapbox for a second, I don't think that's a milestone that gets a whole lot of credit anymore, especially with teams that have multiple running backs. Teams that use 2 or 3 running backs, the term that everybody throws around is running back by committee. Tennessee's like that. Tennessee has 3 running backs. And I think Jalen Wright is getting 1,000 yards at the end of the season. He needs to get his props, man. Dude is really, really good. Jabari Small and Dylan Sampson are the other two that take carries or that carry the ball. I like both of these guys too. I think Sampson is the better of the two, actually. Looking at him and watching the film, he looks more like a prototypical NFL running back, and I think he's a sophomore. If I'm wrong, feel free to tell me in the comments. I don't mind. You can tell me when I'm an idiot. But just watching his vision, his pass blocking, his running, the way he catches the ball, I think he's really, really good. I hope he's a sophomore because I want to see him play in college more. I do think he's really, really good. It is wild to think, though, that Tennessee this year may have 4 different players rush for over 500 yards. Last year, with their offense being so pass-heavy, transitioning this year to a run-heavy offense or a run-dominated offense is pretty impressive. I do have to say that about Heupel being able to make that transition and do it pretty seamlessly is pretty good. And just in case you're wondering, that 4th player that I'm talking about is Joe Milton. He's tallied just over 300 yards this season, and they seem to be giving him more carries as the season goes on. The first half of the season, he had about 5 carries a game. The last half of the season, he's averaging about 10 carries a game. I think you see an uptick in his carries against Georgia this weekend. Defense and Kirby Smart known to struggle with a running quarterback. If I were to guess, I'm not a coach, so let me throw that out there. Let me put that asterisk there. But I would think Milton gets pretty involved in the run game this weekend. Lots of RPOs, making the defense choose which way they want to lose. And I think the game comes down to a lot of what Milton can do and what he decides to do. I think if he tries to get fancy with it and throw the ball downfield a lot, Georgia has 2 really, really good safeties. They play the middle of the field, and they're really good about cutting the field into thirds and into halves. I think it's going to be really hard for him to throw the ball downfield. I think intermediate passes, run game. I think that's how they have a really good chance to win this weekend. On the Georgia side of things, their offense looks different too. Previously, all they wanted to do, or not all they wanted to do, but they were a very run-heavy offense. This year, they are throwing the ball all around the yard. And that's not to say that Georgia can't run the ball. I mean, they're still averaging 5 yards a carry, but they're averaging 20 yards rushing less per game than they were last year. If you look at their stats, they're not really losing 20 yards because that's being supplemented by the passing game, because they're averaging 323 yards. I think it's what it was last year. They were averaging 295. If I remember correctly by looking at the stats. So they're still getting the same production. It's just coming from somewhere else. It's really interesting to see their offense transition to a more pass-heavy offense. But just like UT, when the Dogs' offensive line is good, their offense is good. They've been pretty good all year, only allowing 8 sacks all year. It's pretty good. Against Ole Miss, Carson Beck didn't get touched one time as a passer. He advanced the ball. He was a ball carrier past the line of scrimmage, and of course he got tackled or slid. But if he was a passer, if he was behind the line of scrimmage as a passer, he did not get touched all game. Still talking about Georgia's offense, you can't really talk about their offense and not mention Brock Bowers. Dude is a freak athlete, and apparently a mutant with how quickly he heals with the tightrope surgery going on. Most people know about him, so he is my favorite player, but I'm not going to spend too much time on him. If you don't know who Brock Bowers is, then Google him. If you like football, you'll definitely like what you see. He's pretty good. They do have other weapons that can contribute. They have 6 players with over 20 catches this season. They spread the ball out so much that none of the yardage stats jump out at you. None of the touchdown stats jump out at you. They have a lot of contributors that catch the ball. Dejon Edwards and Kendall Milton take most of the carries for the Dogs. Edwards totaling more yards than Milton, but Milton having a higher average per carry, so they're both productive, just in different ways. Defense is where these teams really shine. Tennessee only allowing 113 yards rushing this year is pretty wild. It's pretty good, especially compared to their defense last year. Their defense was nowhere this good. And 113 yards per game is still pretty impressive considering how many yards they gave up last week to kind of bump that average up. I think last week, if I remember correctly, Tennessee's defense, or rushing defense, was number 1 in the SEC. I think they may be 2 this week. I'll have to go back and check. If I'm wrong on that, I'll put it in the comments and correct myself. No worries. It is clear that Tennessee depends on the line of scrimmage to win games. The games that they have lost, the other team has dominated the line of scrimmage. And that's usually a factor when Tennessee and Georgia play. I think that's going to be the case here. I think the matchup to watch this weekend is Georgia's offensive line versus Tennessee's aggressive defensive line. I think it is very, very impressive that UT can have the success they have with their defense, get all the TFLs and get all the sacks, and Tennessee doesn't blitz a whole lot. I've watched 3 games on film and 1 game on TV, and I could probably count on 2 hands how many times they blitzed. They don't blitz a whole lot. Their D-line is just that good and that aggressive, and they just cause havoc. Like if I'm a coach, if I was ever a coach of a football team, that's what I would want. You want players to cause havoc, and they do that very, very, very well. The 2 liabilities that I see for each team that I think could cause issues. This is not going to be bashing a player section. I'm just going to tell you where I think could be a weakness for each team. 44 for Tennessee on defense. Herring, I think it's Elijah Herring. I hope I got his name right. I haven't been very impressed with what I've seen from him in the games that I've watched. I think he may be a liability, especially with Georgia's offensive line, run game, having to cover Brock Bowers. Really interested to see how Georgia may attack him this week. On Georgia's side, Dylan Everett is a pretty big liability. If Josh Heupel and Joe Milton can find him and scheme up ways to attack him, I think their offense is going to be pretty successful through the pass game. He does have people behind him that can make up for his lack of abilities, but I do think he's going to be a liability. I do see them trying to attack him. Not to say that these two aren't good football players. They both do things very, very well. Everett, he's growing into be a good football player. He tackles well, and so does Herring. Herring, actually, if you met him in the hole, he's going to tackle you. He's really, really good at making the tackle. Like I said, there's just things I've seen from these guys that I would say make them a liability for their respective team. As far as the lines on the game, Georgia is a 10.5-point favorite right now, and I think that's pretty close to where it should be. Wouldn't be surprised if that line dropped to like 9.5 before kickoff. If I were betting on the game, though, I'm not touching this. No way. I'm not touching the spread, not touching the money line. If you're set on putting some money on this game, I'd probably go the under. Some crazy things have happened in this game over the last few years. The one that pops into my mind immediately is the Dobbs touchdown, last-minute touchdown, Hail Mary touchdown to Jennings. So there have been some crazy things happen in this matchup. I wouldn't trust this with the money line or the spread. Personally, I'm going to fade the game completely, but if you're set on doing it, take the under. Both defenses are really good. I think that's your best chance in getting a return for your money on betting that this is going to be a low-scoring affair. I don't see both teams going out there and being a shootout. I don't see, or I could see either team. I could see Georgia winning by more than 10. I could see Tennessee, coming up. What I hope, and from my evaluation, from what I've seen, I think the score ends up being like 32-20. I think the Dogs pull away late. I think Tennessee's atmosphere keeps them in the game. I think Tennessee jumps out early. I think this game is going to be very similar to the 2021 game. Tennessee got up early and the Dogs had to fight and come back, but ultimately pulled away from the Vols. I think this game is going to be pretty similar to that. I think Vol Nation is going to be out for blood after last year, and they were going to be rowdy. And I think it's going to affect Georgia. I do. Carson Beck's first time playing in Knoxville. It's going to be a good one. But personally, what I think is going to happen, I think 32-20 is going to be the score. Again, if Tennessee wins, I wouldn't be surprised. They're a good football team. If they have, if they're clicking, then Georgia's in trouble, especially playing in Knoxville. Well, I can't remember the stat. You guys can tell me, but Knoxville's undefeated, or the Vols are undefeated in Knoxville for I can't remember how many games, but it was a pretty impressive stat. So, we'll see. I'm excited to watch the game. But, thanks for joining me on Shorts on Sports. If you have an opinion, drop a comment. I'd love to see what you guys think. Before you get out of here, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm going to try to start giving you guys some more content, like I said, once a week, little 15-minute videos. As my resources grow, I want to start giving you guys some video content, maybe giving you guys some full, like 30, 45-minute shows to give you guys some real content, maybe show you guys what I'm seeing on film, so that way you don't think I'm just an idiot just blabbling out here, and you maybe wondered what I'm looking at too. So I'm excited about that coming up. So I appreciate all of you guys supporting me. Stay tuned if you want to see some more content. I look forward to bringing you guys more of these, and so have a good day. Go Dogs!